Good evening, Range of Beauties, and welcome to the Pink Politics Show. Melanistic ladies, if you care about Black American women winning, then you have to know the difference between left-wing or liberal white women and right-wing or conservative white women. The quotation, "all white women are created equal," is not true. Now, all of them enjoy white privilege, but the white female vote is not monolithic. Believe it or not, but there are split preferences in the white female political world. Singer-songwriter Bette Midler's tweets from 2019 will prove this. The Divine Miss M, as Midler calls herself, got bored and decided to see if she could make Black American women save one of the most anti-Black American, corrupt organizations in the country that their immediate ancestors built. And of course, that organization would be the Democratic Party. Midler sent a tweet asking Black American women around the country who are supporters of global music icon Beyoncé to vote Democratic. Midler tweeted, "Beyoncé has 133 million Instagram followers, more than double the people who voted for Trump. Wouldn't it be amazing if the Beehive mobilized to defeat him?" Now, a lot of Black American women who may not know the difference between liberal and conservative white women would be confused by those remarks. They may say to themselves, well, white women helped elect Donald Trump. 53% of white women voted for him. Now a white woman is asking Black American women to defeat him? Yes, I know, it's very confusing. Well, I want to make clear the reason that Midler wants to defeat Trump is because Midler is a liberal white woman. These kinds of white women are very different from conservative white women when it comes to politics. Liberal white women usually align themselves with the Democratic Party. That means that they believe in and follow the Democratic agenda, which is uncontrolled immigration into the United States, shipping American jobs overseas, and fighting more wars in the Middle East. None of those things, by the way, are in the interest of Black American women's community. It's also worth noting that most of these liberal white women live in New York City, Washington, D.C., and New Jersey. But why? Well, because New York leads not only America, but the world in entertainment and media. And liberals control the mainstream news and entertainment media. So they're in New York City to control their liberal media outlets, which includes anti-Black American women newspapers like the New York Times and anti-Black American women television networks like CNN and MSNBC. Liberal white women are in Washington, D.C. because it's the political capital of the world. American laws are made there. And since New York City is overcrowded, many liberals elect to stay across the Hudson River in New Jersey. From there, they can quickly cross the George Washington Bridge by car or even bust into their financial and media liberal stronghold, which of course is New York City. Oh, and by the way, Bette Midler, not surprisingly, lives in New York City. Before we move on to explain conservative white women, we want to give a quick recap of liberal white women and explain why their ideas run counter to Black American women's interest. First of all, liberal white women are almost always Democrat. Secondly, they believe in replacing Black American women's community with immigrants from mainly Latin America, Africa, Asia, and the Caribbean. They also believe in shipping American jobs that Black American women feed our families with to Mexico and China. And nefariously, they believe in using Black American women's blood and hard-earned tax dollars to fight wars in the Middle East. Lastly, their residency is in New York City, Manhattan to be exact, Washington, D.C., and New Jersey. Now, unlike liberal white women, conservative white women usually align themselves with the Republican Party. That means that they believe in and follow the Republican agenda, which is similar to the Democratic agenda in some ways, but radically different in others. For example, both Republicans and Democrats want uncontrolled immigration into the United States. Both political parties also want to ship American jobs overseas and fight incessant wars in the Middle East. Midler, of course, has no problem with any of that. But Republicans and Democrats don't understand each other on issues like healthcare, the environment, and Supreme Court appointments. Many of the 2020 Democratic presidential candidates, for example, want government-run healthcare. This is a policy that most conservative white women just don't agree with. Another one of the differences between the Democrats and the Republicans is that the Democrats say racist things sometimes, and the Republicans say racist things most of the time. For example, former Republican House Speaker Newt Gingrich called Barack Obama the food stamp president. Now, that clearly has racial connotations, but despite the outrage from our community, Gingrich or no other Republican attempted to do damage control by apologizing to us and offering a policy that would be good for our community. Former Democratic Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid, however, was not to be outdone. During a conversation with reporters, he said that Obama, as a black candidate, could be successful thanks in part to his light-skinned appearance and speaking patterns with no Negro dialect. Obama sought to reduce the effect of that racist statement, however, by chanting his cozy slogan, "Yes, we can." "Yes, we can," and other Democratic flowery language are some of the main reasons why black American women vote overwhelmingly for Democratic candidates. And differences on issues like healthcare and Gingrich's racist statement are the reasons why conservative white women vote Republican. These right-wing women believe that Gingrich and other Republicans are on their side simply because they're willing to disagree with Democrats on some issues and use very racist terminology. In terms of residency, conservative white women live predominantly in the South, Midwest, and areas right outside of America's major cities. So let's do a quick recap. The conservative white female is almost always a Republican. Secondly, she does not believe in uncontrolled immigration, shipping American jobs overseas, and fighting wars in the Middle East, like Republican candidates do. She votes Republican, however, because the Republicans do differ from Democrats on some key issues, like healthcare, and they're willing to say racist things about black American women's community. But before we get back to Bette Midler, we want to point out to you that Democrat and Republican policies are equally damaging to black American women's community. Now back to Midler. This limousine liberal is a card-carrying member of the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party is seeking to destroy black American women's community. Therefore, Midler implicitly supports the destruction of black American women's community. And Republicans are also out to destroy our resilient and historic community. Remember, we just said that many of the most important issues that impact black American women's community negatively, Republicans and Democrats agree on. When it comes to immigration policy, trade policy, and foreign policy, Republicans harm our community just as much as Democrats. So if both Democrats and Republicans push policies that are no good for black American women's community, why is Midler trying to get black American women to vote out a Republican president? Well, because the current president has remade the Republican Party in his populist image. Unlike so-called traditional Republicans, his policies have a nationalist tinge. And unlike most so-called traditional Republicans, he not only calls out the corrupt mainstream news media, but he attacks them as well. For example, he's against uncontrolled immigration. He's also against trade deals that favor Mexico and China and foreign wars in the Middle East. And at the same time, he denounces the Democratic-leaning news media for supporting all of those things. At least he's against all of those things up until this point. Now, if there are two things that liberal Democrats hate just as much as black American women's community, it's nationalism and attacks on the mainstream media, also known as the Fourth Estate. Most traditional Republicans aren't nationalists or harsh critics of the Democratic-leaning mainstream news media. This current president is. And that's why Midler wants to use black American women to do her and the Democratic Party's bidding. Black American women, it would be wise to not save the Democratic Party again. We've done it in the past and received nothing but contempt and bad democratic policies in return. The only way that it makes sense to vote for the 2020 Democratic presidential nominee is if that candidate offers us a reparations package and promises a buffet of policies that will specifically benefit our community. Now, more than likely, they're not going to do that. And therefore, the more prudent thing to do is to stay home on Election Day and watch the Democratic Party flounder, just like Bet's career. Thank you for joining us. I'm Taylor Washington, and this is Pink Politics, where Black womanhood and politics converge.